P. Harris says that segregation never brought anything except for trouble. But this is a very broad statement. Segregation in all ways has brought trouble, yes, but there are pros and cons to auto, or some may call it self-segregation. This is the basis for my speech today, auto segregation for today's African American. I aim to preach the significance of self-segregation by African Americans. Auto segregation is the division of an ethnic group, religious, from the rest of society to be on its own. As a result, the members of the separated groups can introduce their services, customs, traditions. The purpose of self-segregation is to protect cultural values and traditions in a community. Taking a look back at one of the best examples of segregation, or auto segregation, we can look at the city of Greenwood, Tulsa, known to most as Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street was a community forced into segregation. And due to the laws of the time, the people were left alone to care for one another, learn from one another, and they thrived beyond the dreams that they even thought would happen. It was only a 1 square mile area of Tulsa's north side. It became a utopia for African Americans. It was filled with doctors, lawyers, business owners, and unyielding prosperity. There was an educational system not seen anywhere in the country for African Americans there. The African American dollar could circulate the community 20 times before it left. Of course, this was because blacks were not allowed to patronize white establishments or other ethnic establishments, but from lemons came lemonade. In the way segregation was meant to hold them back, it created a community financially stable and unified. And this is just not a concept of the past. Take into consideration one of today's largest melting pot cities, New York. You can find in its boroughs places like Chinatown, created in the 1800s as a refuge, but eventually it became a meeting ground for Chinese elite, and still a great destination for its historical value and prosperity. Just a train away from there, in Washington Heights, Manhattan, you can find Little Dominican Republic. State Senator Marisol Alcantara has stated that walking around uptown Manhattan can often feel like walking through downtown Dominican Republic. Again, these are neighborhoods that weren't burned down or destroyed due to racial tensions, but eventually were able to thrive in cultural destinations for new immigrants. Whereas for blacks, we're still ignorant of the little gems like Black Wall Street, because they were just, I guess they are just memories of what could have been. Many decades after the racially sparked massacre that ruined Black Wall Street, the majority of African Americans living on the north side of Tulsa, they live in substandard housing projects. And on the other hand, the white community that lives on the south side still to this day have different opportunities and employment and a quality of life that is not like the African American. Therefore, similar to many parts of the United States, community leaders and activists and artists are campaigning for auto segregation of African Americans to keep the spirit of Tulsa alive. This is a call that should be answered by today's Black America. If a 1 mile area could produce such good results in a span of only 10 years, think of what the Black American can do today. There are more Black American millionaires now than there have ever been. Black Wall Street can be more than a neighborhood, but a way of life. Sending our kids to historically Black university as a first priority. Creating more websites like We Buy Black, which is an Amazon type internet service that caters to Black business owners and merchants. And we can circulate our dollars within our own communities and create, increase its buying powers. In summary, auto segregation is fundamental for African Americans to shun racial segregation and facilitate their economic and social development. As that cultural phenomenon was started for blacks in the 1920s due to ignorance and forced segregation, I say that 100 years later, self-segregation as a choice can surely be an answer to ensure the success for today's African American. I urge you today to find a way to create any form of the previous Black Wall Street unity. You can form groups and forums and platforms using the internet, such as Facebook and Twitter. You can introduce projects meant to endorse African American success and value to the society, whether it be an internet forum or rallying to buy land and develop it. Let the specific purpose be to lift the spirit of places like Black Wall Street, and let us accomplish and let it guide us and the standards of excellence that was created. Let it live in you today. Thank you.